Welcome back to Beating the House Lab. This is the first weekly summary session that I'll be doing, and I'll be doing these each week to summarise the events that happened over the past week on my free play experiment. After just 3 sessions of this experiment, I've turned £225 of casino free play into £485. That's more than double the amount of free play I've used so far. But statistically, that shouldn't really be happening. So in this video, I want to break down exactly what happened this week, compare the results to what the math says should happen, and look at where this experiment could end up over the course of a full year. For anyone new to the series, the experiment is simple. Each week I receive casino free play. Instead of just gambling it randomly, I'm tracking every session in a spreadsheet to see whether disciplined play can actually extract value from the free play over time. For each session, I record things like the game played, the RTP if it's shown on the machine, the number of spins, the free play used, and the amount of cash I actually walk away with. The idea is to compare what actually happened with what the probability suggests should happen. Session 1 was fairly straightforward. I used £75 of free play on the slot with about a 92% RTP, which means on average the machine should return about £69 for every £75 played. In reality, I finished the session with £61.40, so slightly below expectation, which is completely normal for a short session. Session 2 was more interesting. Again, £75 of free play, but this time I finished the session with £111.30. That's well above the expected return, and most of that come from a strong spin near the end of the session. At this point, the experiment was already running above the theoretical expectation. Now, session 3 was where variance really kicked in. Going into the final spin of the session, I was only about £40 ahead. Then the final spin triggered the first bonus feature of the entire experiment. The bonus paid £272.50. So that £75 of free play turned into £312.50 in total. So after 3 sessions, the total numbers look like this. Total free play used, £225, and total extracted, £485.20, which means the experiment is currently running massively ahead of expectation. Now let's compare what the math says should happen. Across these sessions, the machines I played had an RTP of roughly 90 to 92%. If we assume about 91% RTP on average, the expected return from £225 of play would be around £205. Instead, the actual result is £485. That's about £280 above the statistical expectation, but this is exactly what variance looks like in the short term. To visualize how this experiment might evolve over time, I created this projection chart. The blue line shows where I'll end up if I continue on the current trajectory. The red line shows theoretically where I should end up if things equalize and I return to the RTP average return per session. And the final line shows what would happen if actually over the rest of the sessions I came in about 5% below RTP. And as you can see, the first line I mentioned on the current trajectory shoots up extremely quickly. And after a year, I'm going to be sitting at sort of over £16,000, possibly £17,000. Now, realistically, that's not going to happen. I've had a very good final session on the £5 spin and got very lucky, which is where luck does come into it. But my motto for all of this is that discipline beats luck in the long run. Over a full year of sessions, the most likely outcome is that results drift closer to one of the lower lines. In other words, the house edge should eventually start pulling the results back towards expectation. Right now, the experiment is massively ahead of the maths. The real question is whether that continues or whether numbers eventually revert back towards the mean. Either way, we'll find out over the next 100-odd sessions. Hopefully that summarises this week pretty well and shows where this experiment could eventually end up. I'll be back in a few days with the next slot reel, and until the next episode, remember that discipline beats luck in the long run.